to actually do a wiring harness loom. Got notepad and a pen. Basically your best tools when you're wiring. Besides maybe some electrical snips. Now, whenever you're doing this, you want to pull out your wiring to make it really easy for you to see things. And when you're doing it, you want to use labels. And so you don't need to read it too well, you just need to know where you're at. Right here, we're starting off with the very end of the wiring, and it is a 3-pin connector for the driver side blinker. All right. That is actually not the very end because this goes to the front grille, the blinker, and then these two go down into the headlight area, and it'll be driver side marker. It's 2, and the driver headlight. It's gonna looks like a 4, but it's still a 3. This is just an empty one right here. Yeah, empty. So large, 2 tinies. So this is the driver front lights right here, the branch. And could put a connector here, but this is optical to water and all that stuff. Right here, I've got my LED light bar. So this stuff gets very heavy, just pulling on it. And that's why whenever you're making this, you want to put a strain relief on it. So I have 2 connectors for the light bar, and that's actually 2 power wires for the light bar, and then there's a negative going from the light bar to the chassis. With that, you have to remember every component, what the requirements are. You're gonna have to fuse all of them, so each one is going to be added up. So whenever you're using this and you ever start writing it down, I'm just going to go over the wiring harness real quick, and then we'll start getting into the meat and potatoes. See this again. It is the passenger side marker. That's a 2, and that looks like the headlight for the passenger side with an empty space. We have this one is the horn relay area, the horn button, and mine is different. Normally they have 2 horns, so there'd be a horn at the driver's side area. This is the front grille, and then this is the passenger side. And I only have 1 horn. I put that on the passenger side. So this will be the front of the car at the grill area right here. This is the main area, and then this will go through your core support, and your radiator will be right here. Now this is one area, and basically these are all lights and the horn. Fairly low amp system. As we're getting past, you get more tangle spaghetti, and this actually is over by the firewall. That's how long some of this stuff is. Right here we have another branch off, and this yellow wire I know is my water temperature sensor for the block right here, and it's a bullet connector because it's a sensor with just a bullet, and it's right next to the distributor because it goes in the front of the motor, and this needs to be protected much better and upgraded. I don't know if you can see this, but this is exposed copper, and this is not great connector. And we have a stock connector again, and this one is actually your ignition connector. Hello. So I'm redoing my electrical wiring. I went through, these are my headlights, making sure that when I pulled it, I marked everything. This is the passenger side headlights going through the core support. I lost them. It's okay. I'm gonna keep going through this so you can see this is a branch So this will come along the frame rail, and then this will be going up to the top of the motor to where it'll reach up. Now this is a single unprotected wire. This is things that we are trying to protect and get away from. It is another bullet connector. I'm not entirely sure what this one is. This is probably another ignition wire. And then right here, we're coming to the alternator right next to the frame. And we have what I believe was the oil pressure, stock connector for the alternator, some destroyed boots I'm gonna have to replace, and the alternator ground. This will be power right here with that boot with the white and red, and this will be the alternator ground, and this will be the sense wire for the alternator, and this one with the shield on it, it's a hard plastic shield, will be, it's very it's still a little pliable. This is the oil pressure. And then right here, there's this little connector. I believe this is just a ground I added for some reason. Here's some stock connectors that are plugged. I'm not entirely sure. What you can do is, if they're plugged, see there's two yellow wires here. They're very dirty. You can see that. And then there's a different color blue with a stripe, and a white with a blue with a white stripe, a red stripe, and a black stripe. Some are green and one black. So you can actually look at your wiring harness and figure out with the colors. This one's much easier to see. There's some striping on that. And this is a stock connector. So this will be branching up. So since we're next to the alternator, this is the starter in the back. And then coming up here will be our boxes, and essentially right here we're at the firewall. So I need to see how this wire is loose. This should be in the sleeving, and this is all roughly 8 years old since I last rewired it, and it's 50 years old before. So this is the fusible links for the car. They come stock like that. This is a replacement, and I have extras in the glove box, and these are to protect your wiring loom. They're like a slow fuse. So this right here is a lot of connectors that all go together, and this is all with this. So in the car, this is all you see. So what you need to do is figure out what this crusty box is, figure out what it does. You can see this connector right here. It's actually two different connectors. It's a T connector and a double connector. And we can see right here, we have a T connector and a double connector, so that'll go together. And one of the ways that you can do this, I labeled it outside big box. What you can do is go in behind here in this sleeving and look at the wire color, and then you can follow that in your wiring diagram. Back here is one of the modifications I did to the car. It is a starter relay, and so that actually helps the car start easier off of the ignition key. So this is one of the best modifications you can do if you're having a hard start car, is doing a starter solenoid relay, and that will give you a lot more power to the car, to the starter, to start the car. This right here is another mystery box, and it's got this red glass, red plastic in the glass, the chrome bezel, and that I believe is actually a crash protection. I'm not entirely sure. If someone would comment and tell me what that is, if you know anything about Datsuns. This is for 260Z 1974. Thank you for the like. I appreciate that. I'm doing my wiring loom, and I am actually right here at the firewall. So I have a new firewall grommet that will replace this. This is very crusty. You can see holes through it. And then this is unprotected wire, so I'm going to be protecting that. And then this is going to be going to the stock connectors. So this is the main OEM wiring harness. Tony's Hot Rod Garage. Thank you, man. See, I'm doing a little bit of heart surgery on the car. And if you see right here, this is my box of electrical. So this right here is my aftermarket parts wiring harness. So where I work at on my car, it's the guy's like man cave, but he doesn't like going there on Mondays, I guess. And so today's Monday, so I got a little home project to do. I'm gonna be ordering up some stuff for the electrical and hopefully getting this done pretty quickly. So you can see some of the stuff I added like nearly a decade ago. So at this point, what I'm gonna try to do is label all these boxes whenever you're pulling stuff out, so you know exactly what's happening, what it is doing, and why you need it. Because if you get rid of it, you can see where I moved a couple things. If you get rid of stuff, you need to know what you're getting rid of and what the consequences are. What I'm going to do is, let's see here. I wonder if I can do something with this right here. I'm going to share this link. I'm actually going to go to Back Live. Shared it on Facebook. So this is the front half of the wiring, where most of this crispy stuff will be. There is a little bit, like I said, the voltage fusible links, and this extra wire that's going to that mystery box on the outside, and like I briefly mentioned, some starter. And then that goes into here, but we do have one more branch right here and another branch right here. So these are things that you have to note down on the notepad. This, I'm starting to get dirty, is actually the transmission right here. You can see two different types of connectors and another connector and another connector. So this is stuff that we're trying to get rid of and protect. And right here, there's just no relief. This is an extremely long one. Reading this right here is the wiper motor, and that's parking and up and down and different voltages to get different speeds for your wiper motor. We're going to be working with that. And here's another one. You see how long this is. And this, thankfully I marked it. It is a 2-pin connector, and that is the washer fluid pump. And that is a part that I did replace. And this is something that you're gonna have to, fuse as well. So you need to remember all the amperages and research what you bought to replace what was broken, or if it's not broken, just research what it is. This is the inspection light. It's actually a pretty famous little guy right here. And this sad little connector. Oh, so sad. All right, so he's crusty and musty. And this is the brake warning system. See if you have low brakes. So this guy is 100% going to be replaced and upgraded. So that is one extremely long wire, and you want to know that's why it's so long, is because this is at the passenger side, and then this goes up the firewall to the wiper motor, and it goes all the way over to the brake master cylinder. to where you get your brakes. And this goes down the transmission tunnel. So that's the front half completely done. You're gonna need to replace this grommet. And then now you have multiple wires, looks like cut. 3 black wires cut right here, just dangling out. Aftermarket blue wire pulled out of a connector. Looks like we got a relay that's semi done up, and that's an aftermarket part. This is a OEM connector, not sure what that is, but these are OEM connectors as well. So this is the stuff that you want to tap in to keep the car running and functioning like a regular car. If you can get replacement one of these, it might be nice. If yours are not in great shape, and looking at these look amazing. So I will try to save some of this wiring if I can, as long as they're not broken. And actually, that will save you a lot of time if you can use OEM connectors and not repin things. Hey John, yes, wires. So I pulled it out because at the shop on Mondays, the guy's not there. So I got a little home project where I'm going to be doing a little bit of fusing and relays and all the fun stuff. Thanks for joining in. I got fusible links right here. So that is the main OEM wiring harness for the front engine loom. And right here is all the aftermarket crap that I added on. And this is so much spaghetti. So this is a positive cable, and I believe it is 2 gauge or 4 gauge. It actually does not say on, oh, here it is, 6 gauge on the small one. So this has got to be 4 gauge on the big one right here. And I have a, that's positive. And let's find our negative. Here we go. You can see a little, my first little boot job with heat shrink on the big wires. And this one comes with another one as well. So I actually have, this is probably like a 18 gauge or 12 gauge, something like that, 16 gauge. You'll have to know each of these gauges as well. And this is a really good one for me. I go straight to here, but I do need to add more negative terminals. That's so we can go straight to the battery for positive and negative. And so to fix that, I actually got this bad boy right here, and it is, aftermarket speaker wire kit, but I also bought these right here. So these come with these 2 terminals that you can do, and you can also attach things on top right here, and that'll help with all the connectivity issues that I've got. And these are beefy, real beefy, so we won't have any electrical issues with some real nice covers. So that'll help us out a lot. And right here is some forget what gauge it is, but it's fairly beefy gauge. I think it was 4 gauge. And this stuff we can you know, scavenge, but also I do have a subwoofer that I'm gonna be trying to install. So they did come with some of these guys, some of the bigger connectors. And right here is some more wire. So that's good wire, more good wire. And also the main thing, this will be able to protect. This came with a fuse, and it is a let's see what size. This is a 100 amp fuse right here. You see it's fairly big. 100 amps. So this will protect what we've got going on right here. In this bucket, my bad. The bucket holds this guy right here. So we are going to be wiring in a fuse block. And so it's got a negative post on the upside down. And right here is where the battery wires connect at. So I'm going to be doing a full circuit with this bucket. So that's why I'm going to be using this right here. All these guys. So with this, I've also got, start out with the front. There was a little bit of aftermarket stuff like the light bar on the front, and like one headlight. But what we do have right here is the radiator temperature sensor and fan connection that will get us our automatic fan control with a thermometer. So we're pulling out this. You can see we're connected right here as well, and this is our charging port from the car is in storage. So since these are all connected together, you can see how things start to get a mess. And this is why organization is key to doing a great job. Because essentially, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot if you don't understand what you're doing. Because it is easy to get sidetracked and misthought. So you can see this is one little harness area, but it has two systems on it. It has the fan control for the radiator, and it has their charging system for the car. So what I'm going to do is separate these out, because it's probably just like one or two connections spliced together. I believe like right here is the main splice that went to the battery. Now you can see how thin that is right there, and it was starting to get misshapen and wasn't starting to get in the way. So what you want to do is also lots of extra different splices that needed to be there. Exposed fuse right next to the water. So this needs to go. But we will be using the control unit right here. So that is that unit. And so what we need to do is on our sheet mark this down, what amperage the fans are going to be drawing, and what type of wire you need, and if you need any extra connectors. So like I mentioned, this is my aftermarket harness, and we have more aftermarket connectors that have some protection, but it's not waterproof protection. Some of this stuff is in the cabin, but it will still need to be done up correctly, just in case spilled soda or anything like that. This is the carb cheater, idle air control valve, and the grommet. So we know where the firewall is at, and we can actually separate this whole unit out by knowing where some places are at. Since this was the aftermarket harness and most of these things, I knew exactly what was happening. I did not label as much. You see a couple labels. You can see right here, I've got a oxygen sensor with me. and more cables. So there's lots and lots of cables. Okay, I've got the end of a, looks like a battery connection. And more fuse that's loose, and more connections. This is the ignition coil control for the carb shooter. So this all is in the engine bay. And here's a negative, I believe. So this is the carb shooter powering to an oxygen sensor connector on the inside of the cabin, and the carb shooter mass air pressure sensor, and the other idle air control valve. And with this oxygen valve is actually going to an Innovate system, but there is an oxygen control valve for the carb shooter as well. So what we need to do is 2 different oxygen sensors, and that'll be playing into the wiring harness. And as you can see, we have very tiny 5-volt power wires and sensing wires that need to be strain relieved and protected as well in this wiring harness, because there is a lot going on here. There is lots and lots of stuff. So let's go ahead and disconnect some of this, that way so we can help protect the wires. Okay. That is the original oxygen sensor that was in the car for a couple years, the idle air control valve for the carb shooter, and the mass air pressure sensor. This is the carb shooter connector. You can see, I'm not sure the total pin count, but it's got this nice little purple clip. Makes it feel good inside to have a computer. There you go. Right. And then here's some more loose wires. This is going to be a relay activation control button, the orange. And there's an extra orange wire here for a second relay, I believe. And here's a white wire, green, red, and yellow. So all this stuff needs to be loomed and actually wired into place and strain relieved. We'll go like this, and I'll take this. We'll go in here. Boom, boom. Alrighty. White, black. What's this white doing? It's going over here. So I got red, green, and yellow. And this is things that, whenever you're wiring, will help you. Red, green, and black right here. So that we have one branch, and this will stay connected like that. And it is actually useful to have electrical tape with you when you're doing a lot of this stuff. And we will come over like this for the white, and the extra relay buttons. I believe these are activation buttons, so they will be going into the cockpit of the car. I wish they had wired it a little differently, but we're good on that. So this is part of the system that needs to be cleaned up. We have a nice cleaned up run. That's what you're going to call them, runs. We got 3 connectors right here, right inside the firewall. And this is the carb shooter connector that will be solidly mounted, connected to this. The only other wire that's not carb cheater going through the system is this red wire, and that is fused to, it should be a line lock wire, and this is why the notebook is so important. Is there's a lot of things going on with the car that you need to keep track of, and if you're not dialing in 100% of what you're doing, why did you do it in the first place? So, not to have something, but that's what you have to do, is actually put in the work, sit down, and do what you gotta do. Alrighty, so we're getting into some tiny wires in this relay right here. And what we're gonna have is our activation button for the car as well. We're gonna have to rewire that. There is this right here. Okay, we're loosening up. This is the control. Let's get this out of here. For the Innovate system. I don't know if you can see that, but tiny wires that need to be strained, relieved. Here's a connection. Since nothing else looks like this, we can disconnect it. And we have our oxygen sensor. This is actually just an extension cord and like a converter to this right here. So this is already made up for us, which is great. We actually have negative that are coiled up with still the bolt in them. And some of this stuff was grounded to the chassis with actually the straight to the dash, was grounded to the dash. So we're going to want to not do that this next go around. I've been watching like Rob Dahm and Jaffro and other people. And so Rob Dahm was saying wiring level 1 is just OEM. Wiring level 2 is starting to get into modifying things. Wiring level 3, he pointed at his Indy car, but I think that's like wiring level 4 really. So we're trying to do like a wiring level 3 according to Rob Dahm's rules, modified a little bit. And what you want to do is, you have some wiring that could start to be kinked up, and you need to be concerned about that. Because if it gets two kinks, it will break and it will not function correctly. We have a cut wire yellow with black, and it's got even more connected together to this yellow wire. So we've got to read our documentation. This is a display for the Innovate system, so you can actually see your oxygen O2 readings, AFR readings, my bad, ground, okay, starting to come out at the end of the tunnel here, guys. That's the oxygen, the O2 sensor, the AFR. Here's some wires for computer, and relays cleaned up. Here's another relay. Here's some grounds, and right here are two wires, and I believe this is actually for our light bar. So we'll actually write that down probably. I'll put a question mark on it. So I can remember that. And right here is the relay for the O2 sensor. Here's a power wire that was cut. And it is very small. Wires it's connecting to. Okay. So this is very tangled. And this is why you need to cut things and mark them. Like, so you can cut it and just not lose track of where you're at. Alrighty. This is a loose relay that was in there the whole time. I didn't do anything. I didn't disconnect anything. And so it must be the light bar that I was talking about. It is grounded twice. And that's probably why it wasn't working for a bit there. So this one extra system that will have to be done up. And this means that this is the relay for the oxygen sensor innovate system. We are going to put this with that. And we have another wire that's being weird. And we don't know what it is. Here's the ground for the system. And here is probably a 12-volt power. This is this right here. And this is another 12-volt power that comes straight from this one all the way to the battery across the firewall. It actually runs opposed to the other harness that I did before. And this is the Innovate computer part. Okay. Zip ties are handy, or just use your electrical tape. This is my Innovate system, which is one wire from the car, essentially. This is the other carb shooter part. So I'm gonna put this right here, and we'll follow that along, and we'll see where it terminates to two nothings and a 4 connector clip. And this 4 connector clip is going to go to my steering wheel buttons. So I have 2-step and line lock. And so my line lock must be the other thing connected to this 4-pin connector. You can see how things are starting to fall together once we organize things. So the negative to red, so it must be a ground or something, and something weird right here, and this. Not totally sure what these are, but this right here is line lock, and this has got to be line lock 2. Both of these are going to be line lock. So this must be a bullet connector, and this. So this is for part of the steering wheel. And I'm not sure what it will be, but it could be part of the ignition or something like that. And you'll have to look at the car and see actually what it is. So I'm going to have to do that probably tomorrow. But that is the connector done. And looking at this right here, we got an empty box full of wires. We have my wife's chair is full of spaghetti, and I couldn't tell the difference with the hair. So we're gonna add a fuse block to the car and still retain the OEM fuse block, but we're gonna clean up the OEM fuse block, make sure that's good. Fuse wiring, the fuse link cover. I'm switching over to GM 10SI alternator, so I'm gonna use a diode. We have labels and stuff and connectors. extra relays, more relays, and there was a tack reader. This thing's kind of broken now. And also, this is the oil pressure light. I had a mechanical one. And then this right here is a bundle. You can see I labeled it all. And this is my turn signal bundle for the relays. Electrical tape. Push button. I'm not sure what I'm going to use on that one. This is the carb shooter box. You can see that. Beta tester. And so with this, I have my connector right here. And this connector, you'll open it up. Push in. Just like that. And then squeeze. Boom. Now we're locked in, and we got a computer in the car. Very nice positive retention clip. Right here, as I mentioned, I was going GM alternator. So we got a GM plug for the alternator. And extra wiring loom, more buttons, relays, silicone tape, and fuses. And right here we have a LED flasher unit, which actually has a snubber in it. I guess I didn't bring it, but I do have a 8-pin connector. I have the train coming by right now. Sorry about that, guys. Right here is, so this is a glass, this is a pretty cheapo glass fuse holder. And so that'll be for a USB charger and voltage regulator, voltage display. Okay, this is what I was looking at right here. So this is a 8-pin connector relay, and if you can see, there are 2 different sides to this, one right here and 2 right here, and essentially it is a single pin double throw connector. And what you're going to do is power 1 pin, and then it'll throw 2 pins together. So that is very nice, and that'll actually get me my line lock and 2-step working together. So this is a fun relay right here. And so essentially, I mean, I just got more. This is the ring for that this glass one right here, and I got another extra button. But I'm probably gonna be using this button right here, and it lights up, and that'll be to engage the system for line lock and 2-step. That way, so since it's gonna be on the steering wheel, I won't actually accidentally activate the button and hit my line lock or hit the 2-step while I'm just driving around. Like I said, this is the lamp for the oil pressure gauge. So what I'm going to be doing is putting all the things onto here, protecting everything to make sure that the wiring is consistent, protected, and won't catch on fire. The diode to make sure that the alternator works. Actually, pieces, the wire, these bad boys are heavy. They are heavy. Alright. So, I got, this is Tesla tape. Actually, Super Fast Matt on YouTube recommends this stuff, and it is wonderful. So I have that. This box is going to be going on somewhere, and then this, I believe, I do not need this big guy for the Chevy alternator swap, so I'll be getting rid of that possibly. But essentially, that is the wiring harness pulled out of the engine bay. This is not terribly much if it's a carburetor car. If it's a EFI car, then it will have a lot of stuff going on. I've added on a lot onto this car in the last 8 years I've owned it. So that is, what we're trying to clean up today. And that's where all the fun lies. Getting everything 100%. That way so your car isn't 100%. You can rust easy at night knowing that. Some of this stuff, I'm not strong enough. But I do have these house scissors, so let's go ahead. Come on. There we go. Alright. So, separated out the O2 sensor for Innovate. I just cut it with a pair of scissors. Purple, because you got to. That is most of the wiring done on the car. Separated out. You can see I have a box full of shit. And this box will be right here. This is the oxygen sensor extension cord, the radiator temperature sensor and charging the car, positive battery cable, which will get new ends, negative battery cable, yet again new ends and more cable attached to it, and the main stock harness for the car. So that's the main thing going on with the car right now. Now I just got wires everywhere in the car. I'm gonna sign off, guys. I got low battery. Thanks for tuning in, Tony and Sean. Appreciate it, guys.